Welcome to the studio. Welcome to I Have Today, Gloria.
Yay, I'm here. Hello.
You are here. Yes, we've been trying to do this for a while, and today is the day. So
Yay.
great to have you here. All right, before we get into the interview, I want to read a little bit about you to the audience so they know a little bit about your background. So, Gloria's journey from darkness into light is one of hope, resilience, and the unrelenting power of the human spirit to survive. It's June 1960, and in middle-class suburban New Zealand, a child was born into sex slavery. For the first 16 years of her life, Gloria suffered horrendous sexual, physical, and psychological abuse at the hands of her father, with no one to protect her. From the underworld of her father's pedophile ring to the groups he trafficked her to, she found an inner strength and a light that shone so brightly. Her mind was the one thing that could not be destroyed. She's now an author, advocate, and speaker for all things child sexual abuse, CSA. She does this through speaking, interviews, blogs, and writing to help other survivors. She's currently publishing her second book, Flight Path to Healing, which is a guide for survivors. She hosts the podcast called Handing the Shame Back, and also a YouTube channel. This provides a safe space for other survivors to share their stories and find resources. Wow, Gloria, amazing work that you're doing. Incredible. And my throat's already closing up. I think this is going to be a very emotional show. I'm already feeling it in my throat. Wow. So beautiful, Gloria. I wanted to preface this to the audience that this is not for children to hear. I'm going to say that's probably good advice. Maybe it is for children to hear. I don't know. I mean, how do we handle this?
I think in anything like this, with the fabulous parents out there, it's better to, I think, watch yourself. You just need to be aware that Diane and I will probably go into exposing a lot of things, and it could be fairly shocking. So
Okay.
maybe not children. Right. Under 18s, no.
Yeah, under 18, no. So if you're a parent out there, keep that in mind. If you're listening to this in the car or watching this, in the family room, just keep that in mind. All right. All right. Well, Gloria, we need to start at the beginning, please. Tell us your story. What happened from birth? Like, was the intention of you being born to be this, to play that role?
Look, unfortunately, I think that's yes. I think that's correct. This type of behaviour and activity does not just happen. And within my family and my father and his family before him and before them, this was, I would put money on it, an experience that just went on through those generations. You don't have a child so that they can then become trained by my father's mother to be the best child prostitute. I don't know what other term to call it, Diane, because that's what it was. I could be from a very young age. So, we have my father's family complicit in all of this. And they made quite a lot of money out of me over the years with all the things I had to endure.
Yes. What is your earliest memory?
Look, I don't, just so you know, I don't believe I had a childhood.
Okay.
That was my first 16 years. I'm actually doing the childhood thing now.
Oh, I love that. Gloria.
Yes, I'm having the fun now and loving life now, and people that know me well will smile when they hear that, because it's true. But in answer to your question, well, I could talk about the odd memory where it was okay and I did have fun. Or I can talk about a memory where it wasn't. So I guess it's over to what you would like me to talk about. I'm happy to talk about the trauma and abuse and the impact of all of that. So I would have been probably 3.5 years of age, and my father was in a rage. He was a psychopath. He's what we call a very twisted psychopath. And some misdemeanor had occurred or not, whatever it was. I was dragged by the arm and dragged out to the garage with a concrete floor, and there were apple crates. And in those days, apple crates were wooden boxes with slats in between. And he put me in one, in a little apple box. Then he got another one and put it over the top and nailed me in. And
God.
I had to stay cramped up in there for hours. And I don't know how or why, but that was pretty traumatic for me. But that's very vanilla. That's one of the least traumatic things that happened, but that was one of my earliest memories.
Okay. Did you have siblings?
Yes, and for legal purposes, I can't talk about what may or may not have happened to them.
Understood.
It's simply because, yes, they don't want this talked about.
Of course. Yeah. Absolutely. Now, your father abused you.
Yes.
That's how it started, right?
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
And then he got his extended family and friends involved, and then the training began. And over those early years, his mother and one of his sisters were paid to train me in the art of seduction.
Wow.
So all I know is I was kind of put into a room and the door was locked behind me. And these women made sure I knew how to behave in a very sexualized, sick way, so that the pedophiles and the men my father would traffic me to would pay more money. Because, Diane, you've got to ask yourself, who wants to pay money for a traumatized and frightened child?
Right. Wow. And so how old were you when you were going through this training?
Oh, this would have been from the age of between 5 and 6, the training really kicked in. But the first abuse began really from the time I was born.
Wow.
But my father had me involved in lots of things. So I was leased to gangs. I was used by the Freemasons at their regular meetings and through special events throughout the year. My father made a lot of money out of me, and so much money that in New Zealand in 1968, he imported one of only 4 Pontiacs into New Zealand.
Oh my goodness.
Yes.
Wow.
I was leased out of a nightclub, our red light district in Auckland, up in K Road, out of a room from the age of 11. May have even been younger, but I'll stick with 11. From 11 to 16 years of age, I would be made to go there on weekends, and men would pay for the privilege of abusing a child.
A child, a little girl.
Yeah.
Now, there's a lot there that I want to ask, but I want to not forget this. Did you go to school?
Yes.
Okay, so So you would go to school during the week, and on the weekends, this is how you spent the weekends.
My parents separated when I was 11, and I was left with my father for 18 months. So the only girl in the house with him for 18 months. And so that was without doubt the scariest and most horrendous time for me. And my life was at risk many, many times. I'm very grateful to be here today.
Now, when you say that, can you be more specific? What would he do? Was it the abuse that he was? Would he beat you? Would he? What?
Oh, Diane, I wrote a memoir about this. It's pretty dark, but it's truth. So the truth, sets us free, I believe. And I've got nothing to hide. Look, there were several things. He was very vicious and you have to consider with a psychopath, he was a psychopath and an extreme narcissist.
Yeah.
So with that combination, I wasn't actually a beautiful little girl to him. I was an object. So you don't waste money, time, attention, love, or care on an object. So I didn't mean anything to him apart from what I could generate financially.
Right. Wow.
So I tried to take my own life 3 times as a child during that 18 months I was left. It didn't work, clearly, but that's how horrible it was. And the other way I nearly died several times was he used to lease me out to gangs on weekends, and some of those gangs had initiation ceremonies, and there was one in particular. And an initiation means that the person who's being blooded into the gang has to prove their worth,
Yes.
Before then. So it was do what you want to this child and let's see how far you'll go. Well, I was so badly beaten and broken and brutalised, I was unrecognisable. My eyes were swollen shut, my ribs were broken, my nose was broken, I was beaten unconscious. And when my father came to collect me, he was really shocked, and I was left there for over 24 hours, just so you know. But when he came to pick me up, he said to the gang leader, look, you want to be careful what you do to her, mate. And I thought, oh my gosh, she's going to say something lovely. No, he said, because she won't look as good for you next time.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
How did you survive in your mind?
Well, I went to a place because I had no living person or adult who was prepared to be or stand alongside me,
right,
or listen to me or want to know my story. So I went inside, and that's what I mean when I say, in our pre-chat, Diane, the power of the human spirit to overcome really is amazing, and I'm very grateful. I'm testament to that. So I went to a little place inside my mind, and I could see light, and I could see little angels fluttering around nearby. And I thought, well, they look pretty good. So I would dissociate into survivors out there, child sexual abuse survivors. They know well what I'm talking about. So it's where we separate from our body because our mind is protecting us from the trauma.
right.
Because it's too, and the most, actually, you'll love this, the easiest description or the most understandable description about that is if you have a terrible car accident, you're not going to remember that. for a little while, the details.
Right.
Why? Because your mind's protecting you from the impact of the trauma. So the same thing happens for CSA, child sexual abuse survivors. We leave our bodies so that the impact isn't so great on us in terms of our mind.
Right.
Yeah.
What was your mother's involvement in this? So your parents split up, but your mother knew this, right?
Well, my mother was a very complex narcissist, and her, to be honest, if I gave one statement about what it felt like growing up under her care, it was that I was in the way. So she didn't have time, she didn't have interest, she didn't have any real care for me. And so it suited her actually that I was left in that house with him. I was just a nuisance. I was there to serve her, not the other way around.
Right.
So really neither parent, I was fit for purpose, Diane. That's the kindest thing I can say for both parents. They should never have been parents. And how I got through, I don't know, but I got through and I just put one foot in front of the other. And yeah, it got very confusing and very difficult for me because when my parents separated and I had 18 months left in that house, every second weekend I was allowed to go back and see my mother and some of the school holidays. So what it meant was the child that would leave my father's house on Friday morning to go to school and then to my mother's was not the same child that came back. Wow. And the reason for that is my father, I was the sex slave. I was actually the slave of everything. He and my brother were the ones in the house, and I was the only female, so therefore I was lower than the dog, really.
Oh, my goodness.
I didn't stand a chance. So that behave sexually, do everything you're told, get beaten to within an inch of your life. I was starved consistently, so I looked thinner and younger for the pedophiles. And then in my mother's house, it was be the good Catholic girl and honour their father and mother and respect everything the mother says and does. So very confusing, very bizarre. And, you know, I think in my father's house, some of the worst things for me were, he would tie me up like a dog, make me crawl around on the floor like a dog and wasn't able to speak with words, had to communicate like a dog, and, very dehumanising and ugly, dark stuff. But let's be honest, I'm here.
You're here.
And I overcame and I made it through, and there's hope, and my little spirit wasn't going to stay crushed. So I got through, and it took decades, and there's many, many things. I was starring over 100 pornographic movies. I had many abortions forced on me by my grandmother. So, yeah, lots and lots of stuff, Diane. But
so how did you break free?
So when I turned 16, I was no longer required to see my father. My mother and father had agreed that I would have to go be in his life, and he had access to me until I was 16. And the day I turned 16, I never spoke to him again.
Never spoke to him again. Okay. And you're saying is he deceased?
Yes.
Okay. How about your mother?
No, she's still alive. But as you can appreciate, a relationship where you are so badly neglected and ignored and abused, it's very, very difficult for me to have had a continuing relationship but I tried because we all want a mother.
Right.
And I tried for years, but she kept coming back strongly with, if you ever speak of this again, we can't have a relationship. So basically, I was meant to split off that part of me that was the truth teller and the light bearer,
Mm-hmm.
and keep the part she could accept, and then she would have the relationship. So I did that, and I tried so hard, but I got to a point I just couldn't do it anymore because it was hurting me.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that, we do all want to be loved, and we do want our mom, and there's always that glimmer of hope. You want to believe so badly that that love is there.
Yes.
And I'm, of course you had to separate from that. You can't just, keep taking that abuse. So, yeah. Now, so let's talk about your healing journey. So now I know it took you, I think that's what I read. It took you until into your 50s to heal from this. So that's, 35 years of, suffering. What was your life like once you broke free?
Complete disaster.
Yeah.
as you would appreciate, because my conditioning had been, you're worthless, you're not, good unless you're doing this. I didn't have a sense of self or a sense of purpose or a sense of self-love at all. So I developed what we call a highly developed false self, which is the mask you put in front. So everyone saw the fun giver, the carer, and that everything was fine all the time. And of course it never was. But it was highly unlikely I could attract good people to me or good men in my life, because I'd been conditioned to have the exact opposite. So guess what? I attracted
Of course.
I attracted the people and the men in my life who would not value me or see me or love me for the person I was. And that's, that's of my conditioning. It's not all on them. But the point is, it's taken me decades, and I did decades of therapy and decades of other healing modalities to reach a place of forgiveness, and I could hold my head up. But that shame thing, Diane, that you talked about is so true, and everything I do is called handing the shame back, because you and I speaking today, we're handing the shame back even more, and for other survivors as well, because we're bringing light to this dark.
Yes.
Does that make sense? Yeah.
Yes, it makes perfect sense.
Yeah. So I guess, but it did, to be honest, it took me till earlier this year before I could put this on LinkedIn. Why? Because of the shame. Why? Because people don't want to know this stuff. Why? Because it's uncomfortable.
Right. It's too horrific to think about. My friend and mentor is watching, and when I did the opening, he wrote the word "yikes," like right, because people don't. That's their normal reaction to me saying this is going to be one of, if not the most serious show I've ever done before. People don't. If I turn a blind eye, and I'm just saying this in general, like if I turn a blind eye, then I don't have to acknowledge it. I don't have to feel it. I don't have to, do something about it. Like be a part of figuring out a solution and exposing it, putting a light to it. That's, what, Gloria, this is where I go. I'm a very big thinker. I'm a visionary. I have big, huge ideas. And my response is always, what is it? What is that thing that makes people do this? What I know it's a sickness. I know they're not well in their head. I get all of that. But what is the thing that they're getting from it? And is there just absolutely no level of compassion? Were they raised like this? So you're clear. And I know I'm throwing a lot out right now, but this is where I'm going with this. Like your grandmother's life was that way. And so your father was raised in this environment. So that is what he knew. But where did she get it from? And let's talk about the number of women doing this abuse. And we think it's male, but no, it's not, right? I just, I want to get to the root of it. That's what I want to know. What are you getting from it?
Well, there's a couple of things. There's a little myth out there that pedophilia is a new thing. No, this has been around for generations. It's just been underground, as you know. The other thing is that women abuse, and there's a lot of amazing male survivors out there who don't have the courage yet to speak, because they're it's in our patriarchal society, they're meant to be the protectors and the strong ones. So it's really doubly hard for them to speak about, and especially if it's a female that abused them. But the reality is, you're so right, women do abuse, and society, again, does not want to accept, because women are seen as the nurturers, the providers of care and love. So you can see how we've got some quite big barriers to overcome. The second thing is that this child sexual abuse, I'm not talking trafficking, I'm talking sexual abuse, affects up to 1 in 3 adults, and that's male and female. So the abusers have to be in similar numbers, really, don't they? And yes, then we have the enablers and the gatekeepers around them. But the reality is, guys, for all of us, you included, Diane, anyone watching, we all know someone. We may just not know that we do, but there's someone out there who suffered child sexual abuse and may not have found the courage. And that's partly why I'm encouraging people to feel supported enough. They don't have to speak the words if they don't want to, Diane, but they might, just sit down with a friend or a family member and say, I had a bit of a tough time growing up. Mm-hmm. Or they may choose art to express this, or they may choose some form of sport to express it. But by releasing it, we're handing the shame back to where it belongs, which is the abusers. Yes. So that's my message, really, because I want people to feel, you're not alone. Mm-hmm. I stand beside you, I see you, and I believe you, because I know the courage it takes to find the voice.
Yes. So all right. So your first book is On Angel's Wings. Did I say that correctly?
Yeah, My Flight from Trauma to Grace. Yeah.
Flight from okay. That's beautiful. Now you're working on your second book. Now, wait, was the first book your story?
Yeah, the first book's the memoir. The second book, Flight Path to Healing, is a guide, and it's you can pre-order now on my website, and it's being released on the 15th.
Great. Wonderful.
Oh, thank you, Diane. That's perfect.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a guide for survivors, and it's written by one survivor to another. I'm not an expert in anything, so let's get that out of the way straight away. This isn't meant to replace anything for people. But the point is this: we've got a huge percentage of our population globally that are struggling. And the reason we need to talk about this and normalise the conversations is so that people feel less alone, because it's hard for them.
Yes. Yeah. And that's how you do it. You share your stories. And I know that you have your YouTube channel and your podcast. That's got to be so comforting for your audience to have a place to get supported and loved and be validated. Yes. It's incredible work that you're doing.
Thank you.
What for you, I mean, this is a question I ask, and like, what has been your biggest challenge? How'd you overcome it? Is kind of like Diane, like it's a hard question, but for you in the overcoming of this, what was the turning point for you that really had you start to heal and be able to share your story, get this work out there, and be doing what you're doing right now? Can you pinpoint that?
I think it was when my whole family turned on me because I dared to expose the truth. That became the catalyst. And for lots of amazing survivors out there, they will have experienced this too. So what they do, it's called the DAVO technique. Diane, you'll love it. Deny, attack, reverse, victim offender roles. So basically I go to my mother and say, look, this happened. She goes, you've got no right to tell anyone. And are you sure? Because your mind can play tricks, See the instant response? So that then becomes a denial and an attack, and the attack is on the credibility of the person who is trying to share in a very vulnerable state, their truth.
Yeah.
So you're shut down because it suits them to not have this exposed. And so, as I described earlier, then what happened was the more I tried to share it and expose it, the more I got shut down and compartmentalized. And again, unfortunately, it's not uncommon for people out there who are survivors as well to experience this. So that was a catalyst for me to really start that healing journey. And it's possible. Look, if I can do this, if I've been able to do this, other people can. And shame's huge. Shame is what keeps us pretty quiet. Like I say, it was only earlier this year I had the courage to put this on LinkedIn. That's how we kind of connected.
Yes. What do you wish more people knew?
That there's so many of us out there, and that they can help by talking about this, because the numbers aren't decreasing, and in our digital age, we've got boys and girls in schools and middle schools and colleges who are being, this is happening as well. But until these conversations can be more normalized, we've got kids at risk. So, yeah. So, but there's hope, and I know your show is about that. So the great thing is, the more voices that are heard, and we're seeing it more and more. I've been talking with Maggie Oliver over in the UK, and Annika Lucas as well, and we're looking at putting something together, the three of us. So there's a lot of us across the world actually who are standing up and saying no more. And it's spotlighting. The purpose is to help others by shining light on this.
Yes, that's beautiful, really beautiful. I want to share with the audience. I have a couple more questions for you, but I want to post your links right now. How can people find out more information about you, Gloria?
Yeah. So if you go to gloriamasters.com, everything's there. But equally, every week on my podcast, my YouTube channel, I post a survivor interview.
Okay.
And I post a spotlight interview, which is something like what you and I are doing, Diane, so that even one of the things you and I have discussed today may help a survivor out there. If we get one thing out of that's helpful. And then the other thing is I also post a blog each week. And so for our survivors, I do lots of writing, and I do things like on dissociation or hypervigilance or, triggers. I write, every week I post a spoken blog for them, and people seem to get something from that. So there's lots on the channel, and it's really just dedicated to our beautiful adult survivors out there, because such wonderful people, and they never deserved anything to happen. So if you go to Handing the Shame Back on YouTube, free channel, subscribe, have a listen. If it's you, come back. If it's not, thanks for visiting. It is what it is, and I will do whatever I can to help and support. And we just need more attention to this so that our next generation are safer.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, we have all the links up right now, and they will all be in the description in area, so people will be able to find you. All right, so 2 more questions, Gloria. The first question is, how do you live the I Have Today way, which is intentionally in your life?
Well, I'm so grateful, and think what a wonderful question. By fully and gratefully living my purpose. And my purpose is to help others by shining light on this.
That's so
Through
beautiful.
love and humility. That's my purpose.
Okay, would you say that again, except this time we collect intention statements. So we make a montage video of all our guests. So will you say what it is again, but start it with, I have today to, and then fill in the blank.
I have today to live my purpose, which is helping others by shining light onto this darkness through love and humility.
Beautiful. So beautiful. Thank you for that. And then is there any final piece of advice you want to share with the audience?
Look, beautiful audience of Diane's and Diane, thank you. There's so much more than you know, guys. There's so much more infinite possibility within us, and I see you and stand beside you, and I believe you.
It's beautiful. The work you're doing is incredible. Thank you for not ending your life the 3 times that you tried, having it be unsuccessful, because your work now is so purposeful and needed, and you're going to help so many. You are helping, but you're going to continue to help so many more of these innocent victims in these horrific crimes against these beautiful children. And I'm so grateful to know you and be a part of this and helping and supporting and spreading the word and using my platform to allow you to share your story with the world. Keep your books up, keep writing, keep working, keep producing, and keep reaching out. It means the world to that person or those people that find you. And even if it's just one soul whose life you change, isn't it worth it? It's totally worth it.
Very, very beautiful and humbling. Thanks, Diane. And so grateful to have met you.
Oh, same here. And I look forward to following you and supporting you.
Thank you.
I do. All right. Well, have a beautiful today, Gloria Masters. Thank you for coming to I Have Today.
Thank you.